Hello, everyone. Before I get into my discussion on the show, I would like to say thank you to all of the new people that recently subscribed. Every subscription and like and comment and everything, it really helps me out. So I appreciate you and welcome to my channel, and I hope you stick around for a while. That being said, let's talk about everyone's favorite Force user. Not him. The other one. No, not him either. There we go. That's the one that I want to talk about. So, we are talking about the first two episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm going to start off with a non-spoiler review of these two episodes. I thought they were really good. I liked the use of the practical effects that they had in the episode. I appreciated seeing it because it made everything feel more grounded and real. I enjoyed seeing Ewan McGregor return as Obi-Wan Kenobi, or now Ben, and he's really giving his stellar performance. He's putting his best foot forward in this show, and I love seeing this new take on Kenobi because we've seen Obi-Wan as the great Jedi Knight that we've seen in the prequel series. We've seen him as the Grand Master who trains Luke in the original trilogy, and now we have this broken down, beaten old man who has failed his greatest task in life, and he's trying to rebuild himself. And I like this story that's being told. Everything feels bad. Like the Star Wars trilogy as a whole, or the universe in general, feels very fantastical and sci-fi, but everything feels very dark. Well, I shouldn't say dark, but gritty at the very least. It feels a bit gritty. Everything's kind of bleak. Not color-wise. The color palette of the show was really good. I like everything that I've seen visually. It pops a lot. However, it feels very bleak in the sense of tone. Things aren't as fantastical as you would have seen in the past or present iterations of Star Wars. You know, nothing seems crazy and out of the water, and I like that. It fits the tone of the show very well. Now, the Inquisitors are probably my only issue that I will say I had with these two episodes, is that there are certain things the Inquisitors do that feel like they did them in order to cause the story to happen rather than them being this imposing force that hunts down people. Personally, I think the best interpretation of the Inquisitors that I've seen was in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, because they were a force to be reckoned with, and granted, I know Cal isn't the same caliber of Jedi as Obi-Wan. He was very adept, and despite his shortcomings, it was very difficult for him to escape the Inquisitors, and I really liked that. They were just ruthless and brutal in that game. And in this, they are ruthless, but it feels like they're being held back a bit so the story can move forward in the direction that they wanted to, and I didn't particularly care for that. I wish they would have just gone full-on menace to society and hunted down the Jedi. That is probably my only gripe that I had with this. That, and there's a child character in the first two episodes who I won't say who it is until my spoiler section, but I didn't particularly like that character a lot. I know that their personality is the way it's supposed to be. I know that is how they are supposed to be, but I don't particularly like their bratty nature, and it bothered me a little bit. But I can see them growing on me as time progresses throughout the course of the show. The choreography is fantastic. I really do love the fact that Ewan McGregor did his own stunts in this. I did see some behind the scenes thing of him practicing stunts. I don't know if he's going to have done every single stunt in the show, but at least the ones that I saw in these first two episodes that they've released, he did his own stunts, and that was really good. Because personally, when it comes to action, I like the actors who do their own stunts because it allows for better camera work. When you have an actor that needs to trade out with the stuntman, they will get someone that looks as close as they can to them, but at the end of the day, you can't have long takes in the action because at some point in time, you will see the face of the actor's stunt double, and you'll be like, okay, that pulled me out of it because it's not the same person. You know, in certain cases, the camera work can be the best part, and, you know, they'll do the cuts and edits so you don't recognize that it isn't the same person, but most case scenarios, I prefer action like martial arts movies, so there's long takes, you see everyone doing everything on screen instead of it cutting. But like I said, Ewan McGregor seemed to do his own stunts, which made the action, although it's not this crazy bombastic, like he's flipping around, doing all the crazy stuff that you see in the prequels, it's still solid action, and it feels grounded because this is a Kenobi that isn't, you know, as powerful as he was before or after this instance. This is probably the lowest point that he's been in his entire career throughout the Star Wars universe, so he's not fighting at full capacity, and I really did like that. The story was pretty good. Both episodes, I believe, ended with a satisfying cliffhanger that makes you want to watch more. It was a fitting cliffhanger that if these episodes, because they are being released week to week, except for these first two, It will leave you like, oh man, I can't wait for the next episode, and it'll make you want to talk about what happened in the episode with other people. And if all the episodes are out by the time you decide to start watching the show, you will hit that cliffhanger. You're like, oh man, I gotta find out what's gonna happen next. And then you're gonna branch off into the following episodes, which I think works pretty well. I like a show that has a cliffhanger ending that balances in both regards, as opposed to something in the Netflix caliber, which this does not work for certain shows in their compendium, but some of their shows has a cliffhanger ending specifically because they're like, hey, our job is to make people binge the whole show at once, so we want a cliffhanger at the end of each episode, versus a show that has a cliffhanger where it's like, we intend to release it week to week. You know, you got satisfying ending to your episode, but then there's a little bit of cliffhanger to let you stew on it and wonder what's going to happen next instead of forcing you to continue it right then and there. And I think Kenobi has that nice balance. So, really did like that. I love the story. The acting is great. The effects that I've seen outside of the practical ones, like the CGI and everything, that looked pretty solid as well. I did enjoy that. There wasn't any uncanny valleyness that I saw that pulled me out when I was watching the episodes. So all in all, these first 2 episodes are very solid introduction to the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and I am very much looking forward to the following 4 episodes that are coming out. That being said, that will be the end of my non-spoiler review for Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 1 and 2. So if you are someone that does not want to be spoiled, I would highly suggest you click off now, watch the 2 episodes, and come back afterwards so you can hear my thoughts. Now I'm going to get into spoilers, so here I go. I mentioned earlier that I didn't like something the Inquisitors did, and what they did was, when they find the first Jedi in Fallen Order, they were ruthless and just like torturing people, but the Grand Inquisitor and the other Inquisitor that are working with the girl, I don't remember her name. I'm bad with names. Happens with everybody. I hear a name, and then if I don't hear it on repeat, I kind of forget it. The third sister. There we go. I just remembered it. So the third sister is very ruthless. She goes to kill him, and then they stop her, and they're like, no. You're doing too much. But then they kill him later. And I'm just like, why didn't you just kill him there? I don't understand why not. As far as my understanding of Inquisitors go, their job is to exterminate all of the remaining Jedi. So killing him then and there would have been just fine, because they end up finding him later off screen and killing him. Like, we don't see them interrogate this Jedi for information or anything like that. The next time we see him, he meets Obi-Wan, he asks him for help, Obi-Wan refuses, and then later on, he's found dead, hung up in the village on Tatooine that Obi-Wan, Luke, and I don't remember Luke's uncle's name, but and Luke's uncle live in. So I'm just like, why didn't you just kill him in the first scene to just establish how much of a threat the Inquisitors are? Because as it stands right now, they have, it seems like, a grand master plan that they really don't. So I didn't like that. I like the Inquisitors more when they're just a ruthless force of nature. They're just like, we don't care who you are or what you're doing, but we're going to murder you. Because again, later on when the third sister is interrogating Luke's uncle because she wants to find Kenobi, she's like, hey, listen, sorry, not Kenobi specifically. In that scene, they were looking for the Jedi that they were hunting. She's like, hey, listen, I am going to kill this man and his entire family if no one steps forward and tells me where the Jedi is hiding. And then she goes to strike him down, and the other Inquisitor with her is just like, hey, that's enough. We're stopping here. Anybody finds information, let us know. And then they leave, and he's like, what is wrong with you? You're going way too far. And I'm just like, why aren't you going that far? Like, why aren't you killing people and forcing them into a position where the Jedi is going to have to come out? I mean, that's what you did at the beginning, but then again, that was the third sister, is that she threw a knife at one of the patrons in the establishment that the Jedi was hiding in to force him to use his powers to stop it, and that's what outed him in the first place. So I'm just like, she seems like the Inquisitor that I expect all of you to be. Like, the 3 of you should all be this ruthless. You should be these psycho killers that hunt down Jedi and are willing to harm anyone in order to bring forth their appearance so you can take them out. That's how it felt when I played Jedi Fallen Order, and that's what it seemed like in the very brief episodes I watched of Rebels, because I didn't particularly care for that show. But whenever Inquisitors showed up, they're like, I'm going to kill the Jedi. That's it. That was the bottom line of it. They just tried to hunt down and murder the Jedi. That was the whole goal that they had being there. So it was just weird that they were this lackadaisical when it came to hunting down Jedi. I don't understand what this whole thing was about. It felt very off to me. And as I mentioned earlier as well, there was a child actor that I did not like in this. Not the actor itself, but the character they were portraying. I do not like child Leia. I understand Leia is a bratty character. That's like a part of who she is. But I just didn't particularly like it because it's that thing that happens in horror films where you have a kid that's constantly scared or doesn't like to listen and it causes problems for the heroes. I understand it's a way to incur enthusiasm and excitement into the story, which I think can work well. And they did use it well once, is because of Leia's untrust of Obi-Wan when she sees that his wanted poster is up and people are hunting him. She's like, wait a minute, I don't know how she exactly came to this conclusion because she was kidnapped like a while ago. I don't know how she pieced everything together. She saw his wanted poster and she's like, oh, I get it. I was kidnapped because they wanted to find you. And I'm like, how did you figure that out? It's not like someone said it. She just saw him look at a bounty hunter with a poster of him. And I guess maybe because the poster wasn't of her, she assumed that Obi-Wan was the one that they wanted instead of her, and they used her as bait. But that's a large leap in logic to come through, especially for a 10-year-old who has very little information. So I don't know how she really came to that conclusion, but I feel like the idea of that worked well, is that her distrust of Obi-Wan led her to flee and leave, but then everything else beforehand was kind of annoying with her personality, and I didn't particularly care for it. But she did have one really good scene where she roasted her cousin who was being a prick.
You're scared of him. Your father. You want him to like you, so you repeat what he says, even though you don't really know what it means. You think being like him will make people frightened of you, but really, you're the one who's scared. You've never made one decision for yourself in your entire life, and you never will. I may not have seen much, cousin, but I can see that.
I did like that a lot. Something I did find really funny. There were two things that I found really funny in this. The first thing is that Obi-Wan remembered the exact location in the Tatooine desert that he buried his lightsabers at. I just find that really funny because, like, deserts change all the time. The sands move because of the wind and the landscape changes and everything. So how did you remember the exact specific spot that you buried your lightsaber in and it was still like that amount buried under the sand? I feel like it would have been buried under more sand as time went on, or it would have moved because of the way the winds blow and everything. But I just found it strange that it was just in the exact same spot, that he remembered that exact same spot, because there was no land marker. It was like there was a flag in the ground or something. He just went into the desert in the middle of nowhere and then grabbed a shovel and dug out his lightsaber, and I found that very funny. The second thing that I found hilarious is that there's the scene where Leia is kidnapped and the bounty hunters that are chasing her, they just have this very stupid run as if they're bumbling idiots, and I just imagined Ed and Eddie sound effects while they were running. So yeah, I enjoyed that. But I think just a couple more things before I leave. I don't like the fact that the third sister killed the Grand Inquisitor. I understand it can work in the sense that lightsabers are different from real life weapons like knives and guns and everything. So the fact that she stabbed him, it can obviously just say like, hey, Obi-Wan stabbed him with his lightsaber, so that's how the Grand Inquisitor died. That makes perfect sense. It's logical and everything, so they don't really have to dwell on it too much. But it's just, again, I wish the Inquisitor is more of a unified force, because I know I shouldn't, but I keep paralleling it to Jedi Fallen Order, where all of the Inquisitors were on the same page in hunting down Cal Kestis, and they felt like a unified, monstrous force. And these three Inquisitors, they don't really get along with each other, and it messes up their operations. Like, I don't understand what the whole thing was, is that the third sister's like, yeah, I set a trap for Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they're like, well, you should have told me first, and now I want you to stand down, which is another thing that bothered me earlier that I mentioned earlier on, is that they want her to stand down, but they don't do anything to make her stand down. They're just like, we want you to stand down. And then they leave, and she's just open to do whatever she wants. So obviously she doesn't stand down. She continues hunting down Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, what did you think was going to happen? She's been insubordinate this whole time, Grand Inquisitor. I mean, you're dead now, so I guess you could contemplate that in hell. But yeah, I didn't particularly care for that. I just wish they would have handled them a little bit differently. But the third sister in herself as the Inquisitor that's hunting down Obi-Wan Kenobi is perfect. That's exactly how I would love the Inquisitors to be. The other ones, not really selling me on it. So third sister and all the ones from Jedi Fallen Order, peak Inquisitors. I just realized all of the female Inquisitors are the ones that are laid out in a character written way that I like. And every male Inquisitor that I've seen, I didn't particularly care for. It's really weird. It's a weird coincidence. Anyway, last thing that I want to talk about is the endings to episodes 1 and 2. I thought they ended nicely. Obi-Wan showing that he strapped up his lightsaber and is going off to save Leia was a very nice shot to end off the first episode in. Left you excited to see the second one. And then the second episode ending with Obi-Wan learning that Anakin is alive and he has become known as Darth Vader was awesome. Ewan McGregor's response to that, like the pain and fear in his face, the erratic breathing, he just is completely lost and he doesn't understand what's going on. He's like, I can't believe this Anakin is alive, and he's still on the dark side, like, oh no, this is terrible, everything is wrong. And then the last shot, you see Anakin start to be built as Vader, and I loved seeing that he's just in like the Beskar tank, and you just hear the I was just, it was just so beautiful. I loved the way that ended. And I'm sure there's probably going to be another episode that ends with him being fully built. Probably the episode preceding their first time meeting or their final duel or something like that. I heard a rumor that there are going to be 2 duels between Anakin and Obi-Wan in the show. Sorry, Vader and Ben in the show, that the first time they meet, Ben is going to lose. And the second time they meet, which would probably be in the finale, they would have a final fated duel prior to their fated duel in A New Hope. So I think that would be pretty cool. I don't need 2 duels between Vader and Obi-Wan. Honestly, I would be fine if the show was a buildup of Obi-Wan regaining who he is as a person, and then at the end, he ends up coming across Vader and he's returned to form, or better yet, he has taken on his characteristics of a Grand Master, so he changes his stance from his classic stance from the prequels and Clone Wars to his new stance from A New Hope. I think that would be pretty cool and a really nice way to have the duel at the end. That being said, I think that's really about it. I guess another last thing. Sorry. I love the fact that you see Ben in this horrible state. Like, he doesn't help people at the beginning. He's afraid that he isn't good enough, that he isn't the Jedi he used to be, and he's struggling to really find his place in the universe. He keeps trying to talk to the Force ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn, and it isn't working for him, and he doesn't connect to the Force anymore. Like, he struggled to save Leia when she fell off of a building. He barely was able to lift her with the Force, and I thought that was great. I loved seeing him in this disheveled state. One of my friends actually pointed this out to me when I was talking to him about it. When Kenobi, at the very beginning of the first episode, he meets his boss because he's working undercover to just make ends meet. Someone doesn't get the pay that they deserve, and when Kenobi walks up to him, he stares at him, and you can see that there's a moment where he considers using his Jedi mind trick to make the guy pay him properly or just act and do something, and he didn't, and he just let it go. I thought, honestly, at that point in time, Kenobi was going to give his money to the guy to help him out, but he didn't. And I actually kind of like that a lot more. I was surprised because it really established that this is a broken version of Obi-Wan. He is completely different from the 2 iterations that you know, and this really sets him apart. And I would say he's my favorite. I still like the Clone Wars one the most, but as of right now, this is a very solid interpretation of Obi-Wan, and I really love where they're going with this character. And I like that it's a slow build up to him becoming the Jedi Master that we know and love. So yes, that is the actual end to this video. I will be back next week, and if I'm not back next week, I'll be back the week after, or whatever. My point is, I will be back with more episode by episode reviews of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I am very much enjoying the show. And once again, thank you to the new people that came to the channel. I very much appreciate the support. And that being said, I am the innocent villain. And remember, folks, you're innocent until proven villainous, and I'll catch you in the next one.